Alright, what's going on? Wait, who are you people? Why is the button red? Why is it counting up? What's going on? I was here for session. Oh, session's canceled. Oh. Okay. I guess we're recording then. Shit. Anyway. How's it going, everybody? How y'all doing? You doing good? Did you have a good Christmas break? I did. I got sick. That shit sucked.
You made that sound a little awkward. That got weird. That got a little weird. What was the? I don't know what the tone was supposed to be there.
I don't really know either.
On one hand, you were a confused man in the movie scene when that he forgot they were rolling cameras, and then you turned into like student in trouble. I don't. What was going on there?
I was kind of going for John Travolta in Pulp Fiction in the meme when he's just looking around the house.
I mean, that's where you started. I don't think that's where you ended.
You know, it's fine. I'm a lot out of practice, as we discussed.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, welcome back, everybody, to the Sessions Cancel podcast. It's me, Isaiah, back from New York. I'm here with Josh.
Still in New York.
Say still in New York. And it has been a while. I think our last recording was like November 1st. So that's a little crazy.
I don't know if it was the first, but
check her right now.
Might have been like the third.
The third, yeah. Oh god.
Yeah.
It's been over a month.
That is how time works, yes.
Look at us. Forgotten. Couple of old fogies. Trying to relive the glory days of...
Who's this us? I didn't forget nothing. What are you talking about? I didn't forget nothing.
I'm not saying you don't talking to listeners.
Okay. I'm confused who you're accusing here.
You know, you made me start thinking about it, then I'm going to start questioning myself, and then this is going to go to hell even faster than it already is. So, it's better if we don't ask.
I'm waiting.
I need your help here, brother. I need your help.
I don't think I can help you. I'm not really sure what's going on anymore.
Look, what you're feeling right now is exactly how I felt trying to prep for this today.
Uh-huh.
Like, how do I do this? How do I put words together in a semi-coherent fashion?
How do you talk?
Yeah, how do I talk? Dude, I don't know what has happened to me, but like in the last week, trying to form even moderately coherent sentences where I'm not babbling like a moron, just seems like it ain't happening no more. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
You're saying you forgot how to talk over Christmas?
Apparently, yeah.
Okay.
Apparently I did. Which is weird because I spent most of that break sober. Like,
yeah.
Like 75% of that stone cold sober.
Yeah.
Much to my chagrin. Unrelated. Now that we are back, actually, before, please do us a favor and follow us on your podcast platform of choice. I'd really appreciate it. Maybe toss us a coffee for Brett. Thank you. Mwah. Anyway,
that was almost unintelligible.
No, it wasn't.
It was a little. I mean, it was a little bit.
Are you gonna do this? You gonna do this the whole time?
Just saying, your execution was a little awkward there,
brother. You know what? Next time we go on a break, it's gonna be your turn. It's gonna be your turn, and you're gonna have to deal with this fucking brain.
I mean,
fog.
to be fair, I would have done it. This is just kind of how things lined up. So,
look, when your brain has turned to mush from the brain,
you
fog,
could have asked me.
Yeah, but then that wouldn't be fair, now would it?
I'm just saying, you could have asked. You never even asked.
Why would I do it?
You know, I don't know, but you could have.
I'm gonna kill one of us in the next hour.
I still have a couple of ideas.
All right, well, you got next
week.
One
of them's Fabula related.
What, for what we're talking about
Spoilers.
today, or for what you're doing next time?
For an idea, I don't know necessarily. I'm not going to commit to a when I'm going to do it, but one of them's Fabula related.
Interesting.
You should be able to surmise what it might be, to be honest.
I probably could if I had a little bit more information.
Well, something interesting, something exciting just happened for Fabula.
Is the bestiary out?
Yes, I'm talking about the bestiary.
Okay.
You know, the PDF that I linked in our Discord chat?
The one that I definitely did not see.
Evidently not.
When the fuck did you do
Good
that?
to know. We want the receipts.
Oh,
I think the
3
day
days ago?
before session. Yeah, the day before session, the 11th.
Who sent that thumbs up? Oh, there.
Yeah. So
What was I even doing Sunday? Doesn't matter.
I don't know. Evidently, players don't be looking at my messages though. That's what I'm learning.
You know what? Maybe if you'd pinned it or added
God
me
won't
about
remember.
it.
Why would I need to pin? Why would I need to add or pin you? There's only 4 people in that chat, or maybe 5.
I mean,
Why would I need?
apparently, because of this is why you should have pinged everybody.
Well, maybe you should. Well, evidently everybody else saw.
Well,
I know at
technically,
least 2 other people. I know at least 2 other people saw. So,
I guess. Anyway, before we get any more off topic in 7 minutes than we've ever been,
I don't know about ever been.
stab you.
That's a bold. Ever been is a bold statement, I would say.
Anyway, now that we're back in action, both in terms of recording the podcast and running our respective games, because I had my session of Lancer last week and you had Fabula this week, there is something on my mind that has me both curious and filled with a mild sense of dread.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, and as I've spoken about for a couple episodes now when I was hosting, before we went on Christmas break for running Lancer, you know, I had done the big climactic battle at the end of Act 2 of the story, and with that, you know, came all of the fallout that I had stated that I was kind of worried about the players maybe not taking super well. And I was kind of worried, you know, something culmination of about a year's worth of planning coming to this point. But I did it. I committed. I did everything for the most part the way I had planned it. There was a little bit of like figuring some stuff out at the end there. But it is done, and now that it's done, and the players are, you know, cast into the far reaches of space because they've lost their home planet and everything, I'm still like a little worried that maybe something is wrong.
Something is wrong?
Not wrong necessarily, like the game's pacing, and I know it's only been one session and it has been a month, but
Yeah.
the energy has noticeably dipped, it feels like, in that one session. And it's not just because of that session, because the last time I did something like this, basically the same thing happened. Like, what can I say? I'm unoriginal. The last campaign I ran followed a similar story beat where, you know, the halfway point in the campaign, big battle, several sessions, guest players, all this fun shit. And then the battle was done and you're in the like pick up the pieces phase of the Pyrrhic victory. And it felt like it took, you know, out of game months to build the same drive and excitement and initiative and like on some level passion from the players, to the point that, you know, at several times while running Hellscapes, I kind of was just contemplating ending the game just being like, okay, I guess we're kind of done now because things are feeling a little low. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's a whole lot of different elements going on there, I would say.
There are, yes.
Because, I mean, on one hand, the idea... sorry, my cat is being a spaz. The idea that the session after... I think a lot of people... slight side story. I thought that the whole like taking a break in December and not trying to run any sessions or anything was not necessarily that common of a practice, but now I keep seeing people posting memes and shit about it online about like, oh, we haven't played since like the end of November, or, oh, we stopped playing in like October or some shit. Like people keep making jokes and memes about that and shit. So apparently this is a thing that like kind of a lot of people do. Which I thought was kind of funny.
That doesn't surprise me.
I mean, for me in particular, you know, not only, you know, December is obviously Christmas and New Year's, but also my birthday, a cousin's birthday, your birthday, a cousin's friend's birthday. Like, so, you know, like for me, it just kind of happened that way because I was like, well, this is too much nonsense going on. But apparently a lot of people do that. But anyway, the sort of post extended break return session, I don't think is ever going to have like the chutzpah and energy is never going to be there quite the same because it's been a while and you need to like get your shit back together and like reacquaint and like remember what's going on, maybe remember what your character does mechanically depending on the kind of player you are or how much you've played that particular system, which in the case of Lancer, I have a feeling that's a big factor is like remembering how the fuck that game even works. You know, like that, I feel like the energy is gonna be a little different on the comeback game no matter what. I don't think you can, unless you manage to land the story on such a fucking like big dick, big brain cliffhanger that the session everyone comes back, they just like, I need to fucking know what's gonna happen next. Like, unless you nailed that cliffhanger flawlessly, which I feel like is really hard to do tabletop wise, like you could do cliffhangers obviously, but I feel like they're never quite as good as you want them to be. You know what I mean? Like they always are just a little short of as good as you want.
No, I mean, hard agree. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like you could do it, but by the nature of how the hobby, how the games work, it's impossible to perfectly nail it because it's just there's too many factors out of your control to be able to hit it perfectly like that. But yeah, so because of that, I just don't think the coming back session's ever going to have that amount of chutzpah. I mean, even we both just did a comeback session in the same week, I mean. And, you know, I don't feel like our Fabulous session was like crazy exciting or anything either. You know what I mean?
No, like, you're right.
There was a desire to come back and play, but it wasn't like the session itself was popping off or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, you know, I'm aware that for both of us, it is also sort of the nature of the session. If we dropped back into combat, I'm sure things would have gotten a little more high energy, a little more quickly. But it just so happens that both of us are in like a weird transitory state where we're going into the next
I don't even know that I would bank on jumping straight back into combat would work either, to be honest, because I think there would be a lot of, how do I play this? What do I want to do? What's my best strat? Hold on, I got to think about this kind of vibe if you went straight back into some sort of combat scenario. So I don't even know if that would 100% solve the issue. You know what I'm saying?
Potentially.
But yeah, so there's that factor. But it also sounds like narratively, and now if I'm remembering correctly, I guess I should maybe just clarify. the like narrative beat thing that happened was big scary enemy super weapon showed up out of nowhere. The Empire revealed their Death Star, blew up the planet, and everyone was like, holy fuck, and they weren't prepared, right? That was kind of the thing that happened.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, like, from a narrative standpoint, we are, effectively on...
Not in Kansas anymore.
Kind of. Well, we're Return of the Jedi right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, which hilariously, I'm now blanking on how Return of the Jedi starts.
Jabba's palace.
It is Jabba's palace. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're Return of the Jedi, right? Like Han's in carbonite, Leia's captured, the rebellion is all fucked, like shit's in a bad way. So the Return has an element of we need to like reset the energy, so the beginning is going to be a little quieter no matter what. Now, depending on your execution, like, or depending on what you want to do, you could potentially be like, all right, everything's bad, and now we're going to jump into some more crazy shit. But if you do that, you risk sort of, like emotional exhaustion. So, yeah. Pros and cons. It's funny because I just watched the first 2 episodes of JJK season 3 this morning, and JJK season 3 starts basically like shit just went down and shit is still going, and you're like, oh, okay, we're still doing this. All right, yep, all right, we're back in. Like, it almost doesn't give you a lot of breathing room at the start of season 3. Like, the whole culling game thing is just like, we're doing this, and you're like, okay, I guess we're doing this. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is a bit of an emotional roller coaster. That is true.
Yeah, so like, there's an element of like, oh, this is a lot. I'm tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're on you're kind of going with. You're at the action has fallen. What is it? Rising action climate. What or no? You're at the. What's it called?
Falling action.
The part of the no, because the falling action's after the climax, which is not what you've done yet.
Well, that was intended to be the climax, not of the game, but of the arc.
Of the arc, I guess. But no, there's I forget what they call it, but there's that time period where the main character like has lost or something has gone poorly, and now they're at their lowest point, like that like valley of, oh, we're so fucked, everything's fucked vibe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Again, actually, using JJK, where Yuji's at in the start of season 3, right? Like, he killed a bunch of people, kind of, sort of. He sort of killed a bunch of not really his fault, but that's a whole other thing. He killed a bunch of people. A bunch of his friends died. Everything's fucked. He's now at his lowest point, right? You're there with the character. So I don't feel like there's any scenario where you're coming back to a session and with that setup and everyone's like jonesing to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that just makes sense to me that they're a little like, that the energy's lower almost by necessity.
It is. And you're not wrong. And I sort of acknowledge that. I even put it like later on in my notes, like I'm aware that this thing happens, right? The emotional roller coaster, we were on the high, now we're at the low. But yeah, the thing that worries me is, the post-arc slump, as I'm calling it. The thing that worries me is that the last time this happened, it took a while.
Forever.
Yeah, to get that going again. And for a really long time, even after things started to pick up, it didn't feel the same. I didn't feel, and like, I could be 100% misreading this and just thinking way too far into it because I had, have paranoia and that's what happens. But it feels bad, man. Like, I don't know how else to put it.
Feels bad, man.
Like, I even, like, I was prepared for it, right? Like, I knew it was coming because, again, you're right, but also I've seen this happen before. And, the thing that's got me a little worried at this point because while I have gotten better with my pacing in how the story is delivered, I made it very clear to my players that this arc, sort of by necessity, has to be character driven.
Well, that was a questionable choice.
Yes.
Knowing what I do about your group.
Yes, I know.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the game has not been up until this point, and Lancer doesn't really assume that it will be, right?
You're right. No, it doesn't. And I was aware of that when I made this decision because of the fact that it's not it's character driven insofar as, you know, the characters need to make decisions and decide what part of the mission they want to do and how they want to get paid. But like, this game is not really great at having the characters tell their own stories and going into deep backstory stuff in the way that a lot of people feel about it when it comes to things like D&D.
Well, yeah, because I think the expectation with the setup and the premise of Lancer is that they're being handed missions from someone on high, and that premise doesn't necessarily lend itself to like self-motivated characters doing their own shit, right? It's not open enough. There's an element of the game expects you as the GM to give them a mission guy, right?
Yes.
So you're kind of both working against your group and working against the system to a degree.
I am, yes. And yet,
which is a choice.
It's a choice, but it's. I put this farther down in the notes. I want the players to have this moment where they can feel like their characters have like a reason to do what they do. But it is a lot of work, especially in Lancer, to try to slot people's backstories into the mission format, given how linear the story is presented.
Right.
And, you know, on a personal note, the mission thing, like I said, is a lot. It can be a little tiring. It's just not really something I want to have to think about right now, you know? And you run into that unfortunate situation where, like, I have presented players with backstory things, like, you know, ways for them to bite, and then they don't bite. And then I go, okay, well, that was a completely missed exit. Like, what do now? And, you know, the clinical answer is just, you know, if you're not going to make any attempt to do your backstory stuff, that was it. You missed it. But that feels shitty. I don't want to do that.
Well, it's kind of true to a point, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
If the player's simply not interested, then they're simply not interested. No point in pulling teeth.
I don't think it's that they're not interested in general. I think they either didn't understand that I was trying to give them an in to their backstory, or, you know, for roleplay reasons, they didn't take the bait. And like, I get that,
perhaps,
right? That can be
perhaps you should be a little more explicit in those scenarios.
Going forward, yes. Seems like I'm going to have to be, but this was my attempt to remedy that, or to present the players an option, which is, if you want your backstory stuff to come up, you have to chase it. I can put those pieces in front of you, but if you're not going to take the bait, I'm not going to, you know.
Right, but if they're not going to take the bait, then just continue forward. Right? Like, if the player doesn't take the bait, then you do the kind of Apocalypse World style thing of go, all right, well, the enemy is still going to do their thing, and you just keep the ball rolling. Like, tabletop isn't a video game, right? So in the video game, when you as the main character decide not to do anything, the game world pauses and does nothing, right? Like, it does not move forward. In tabletop, the players can choose to do nothing, and then you as the GM are like, okay, that's fine. The world is going to move forward without you. And that's the scenario you'd be in. So you could set up all the dominoes. If they don't take the dominoes, you go, all right, then now next thing that's going to happen is this. And like, I don't give a shit. Like, and if the players then could be annoyed or something, but you go, well, you ignored the previous signs, so I don't give a shit. We're moving forward now, because at the end of the day, it's more interesting for you as the GM to move things forward and show the consequences of their actions than to pause the game world for them. Like, that's boring. Pausing the game world for them, or like putting things on hold because they didn't do X, Y, or Z, that's not interesting and is kind of defeating the purpose of the medium in question. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
And the main thing I think I don't see any scenario in this particular setup where you are not on the struggle bus here, because Lancer doesn't strike me. Now, I haven't played it, but Lancer does not strike me as the kind of game that really gives a shit about your backstory, and is not a game that expects you to have this like self-motivated, we're gonna go on an adventure to find my lost brother type situation. So like, I just don't see, I don't know exactly how you're gonna do it. I mean, it might work. There might be something that I'm missing that might make it work.
Well,
I don't know. But
I mean,
from a distance, I don't see how you're gonna make it work.
It does it about as well as D&D does in terms of like that framing of storytelling, right? D&D is not actually good at that at all.
D&D is not necessarily good at it, but I think D&D expects a level of openness in the design more than Lancer, in terms of openness in your adventure design, I should say. Like, yeah, D&D doesn't necessarily help you to do the backstory quest, but it doesn't hinder you either. Whereas I feel like Lancer maybe hinders you a little bit to do the backstory quest.
Yes, it does, because of the mission format.
Yeah, because, so like, if the players... Well, I mean, let me posit the question. If the players decide, one of the players, you know, is like, I'm looking for my long lost brother, that was established in session 1. And then they're in this scenario where they're like, well, we don't have anything we have to do right now. Our planet's fucked. Our organization's fucked. We're kind of free agents at the moment. Should we try and look for your long lost brother? And the player's like, the player character, or the player in question's like, yeah, let's do that. What then do you, as the GM, how do you set that mission up?
Because so the game does actually have an answer for this. Basically, you can turn those story things into missions by sort of presenting them in a conveniently correspondent way of like, well, we're getting a distress signal from the planet that your brother was last seen on. You know what I mean? And then you sort of do it that way. And that is what you're describing is basically what I'm expecting of the players. Like exactly the way you put it. Oh, well, you know, we have nothing now. We can sort of go off and figure that out.
It's kind of like Mass Effect 2 loyalty missions.
Yes, that is exactly how I'm trying to do it. Exactly.
And the game basically tells you to set up the mission, again, like the loyalty missions, to set it up. It, like, basically, how convenient for X, Y, and Z planet that we were just looking at is where your brother, like, it expects you to do that, basically.
Kinda. Like, not in a way that makes it, like, necessarily, quote-unquote, plot relevant, but you can turn a personal mission into a paid mission through, like, you know, some good old-fashioned plot convenience.
Right. Okay. I mean, all right, so it's somewhat doable. I think it's also worth pointing out, too, you did kind of hit your players with, like, catastrophe. So they might also just kind of be like, what the fuck do we do? Like, you know, you may have, everything may be so fucked that they are unsure. You know what I mean?
Yes, which is why I told them, as things were getting fucked up, I'm like clacking dice, but I told them specifically before the act ended, like, hey, this next act is going to be super reliant on you guys figuring your own objectives out, whatever that means. Personal backstory stuff, jobs that you want to do, pieces of kit that you want, stuff like that. That is what is going to become the impetus for a lot of the next arc. So it's not like I threw them in the deep end with nothing.
Okay. Can I posit a question here? And this might sound like I'm being snarky. I'm not being snarky. I'm being very literal here. Why are you doing this?
Doing what?
Why are you setting up an arc, an adventure, however you want to call it? Why are you setting up a chunk of the game to explicitly be players you need to now be self-motivated?
Oh, simple answer. I thought about this. Because I don't feel confident in my ability to fold the characters' backstories into the game as I've set it up. I feel like I've kind of written myself into a bit of a corner. And I'm sort of pleading, for lack of a better word, with the players to do some down and dirty, self-motivated action to get the stuff not necessarily out of the way, but at least rolling before the final 2 arcs get going, because I don't know how much free time they're going to have once that shit happens.
See, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know if that's the best way to handle this problem. But in the interest of peeling the
coloring in the lines, yeah.
Yeah, in the interest of operating under the premise here and trying to do something with it. Sure, okay. That is, I mean, I suppose that's a valid enough reason. I don't know that that's how I would have necessarily handled that issue, but if that's what you're trying to do, I mean, perhaps then try to dangle some carrots if the self-motivated thing doesn't go over very well, which is kind of what I'm expecting. Perhaps start dangling some carrots and being like, you know, using the do the Jacob from Mass Effect 2 loyalty mission where you know, you're chatting with him and he's like, oh, by the way, I got this really weird distress signal from my dad. Can you help me with this? You know, do something like that. Like have, you know, whoever, I don't know if their boss is still alive necessarily, but like an NPC, you know, relevant to them in some capacity, be like, oh, we got this really, you know, going with the long lost brother thing. We got this really weird distress signal from somebody we don't recognize. We think it might be relevant to you guys, and like show it to them. And then of course you do the name drop of the brother, and then the player in question's like, oh fuck. Right? Perhaps do some carrot dangling.
I definitely, I'm kind of trying that right now. So, I mean, it's it might be relevant. I don't know if she's going to hear this by the time that we get to it in game, but there's going to be some stuff going on with Cassie's character's dad in the next mission, because we're doing like a tournament arc as a, you know, it's the first official mission of Act 3, but it's really just a palate cleanser for the players to like just have some fun in a not potentially, you know, necessary because plot demands that they have to try to win to get money to fix their ship so they can go off into the galaxy and do things again. But I've already prepared ways for them to get that money even if they fail the tournament. So it's not 100% mission critical, but to be honest, I don't see them failing. Just given how strong they are.
Wait, failing which bit?
Just like losing in the tournament arc.
Ah, okay.
I just don't see them lose. But not that I'm not going to try, but I've tried before and failed a lot.
Yeah, I think that's going to be your best bet is doing that kind of a carrot dangle to try and basically reminding them of their own backstory to then get them to be like, oh yeah, that might be a good idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, and this might seem a little like oxymoronic almost, but sometimes you as the GM know, like, you sometimes remember player backstories more than the players do, because you've got all these things going on in your mind more than they do, so you're thinking about it more, whereas the players are, especially if they haven't brought it up in a while, the player is getting to the point where they're just comfortable, just going along and doing whatever plot hook thing comes their way, and they're doing the do and they're like, oh yeah, this is fun. And then you remind them of their backstory and they're like, oh yeah, I was looking for my brother, I completely forgot about that. Like that happens a lot. So
it's funny with some characters. Yes, that is absolutely what the fuck is happening. And I have several times been like, here's a carrot, you want the carrot, you want the carrot? And then they're like, eh. So with them, I've kind of like, I don't know, spoilers. For Snubby's character, the like lady that was working at the cloning facility where she was born died. Mm-hmm. And okay, to be clear, she can still get to the cloning facility and do all that stuff. But the most obvious character that could have given her that info died because she didn't chase down that lead. And I didn't do it necessarily to punish her, but I did have it scripted that, yeah, that character dies. And now she's got to figure something else out.
It's a punishment for inaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
However, some characters like Siffy are like, where the fuck is my sister GM? Where is she? And it's funny because the answer is much closer than she thinks. But that one is a little more based on her asking the right question. Like it'll never go away. It'll never be completely locked off to her, but she's not asking the right question to get the right answer,
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's worth pointing out that there is no there's no failure state in this scenario. You realize that too, right?
Yes, I know that, like, there is no failure state technically, but it feels like a failure for me.
Well, but that's what that's what I'm saying. There is no failure to, like, if you dangle a bunch of things in front of the players and the players ignore those things and then the world moves on without them and stuff happens, then the story goes from being about how the players saved the player character in question saved their brother, and the story becomes how they chose to ignore their problems and failed their brother. It's just a different kind of story, right? Like, it's not a failure state. It's just the story has shifted, right? It's like when video games give you the option to not do anything, but then the game moves forward, right? So it's not really a failure. It's just a different state of the game.
Yes, you're right. I don't know. Yes, it feels like a failure for me personally. It feels like I have failed as a GM because I couldn't get them to bite.
But that's what I'm saying. You can't control their actions as players.
I know I can't.
Because they are human beings, so you can't control that. So ergo, there is no failure state. Like, there's no way to. The only failure state is if they're bored and say that sucks. Like, that's the only actual failure state.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm afraid of, is them being like, but I didn't get to do my backstory stuff. That sucks. What the fuck, GM? And, I could get mad and be like, well, I gave it to you, but you didn't fucking want it now, did you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to do that.
Well, you don't get mad, but if you dangled it in front of the players and the players ignored it, then you look at them and go like, I presented it to you. You didn't do anything with it. So the story changed. Right? Like, we got a different story because you chose not to do anything. Right? And that's not... unless that somehow... it doesn't make any sense. If the player in question, the person, was so invested in their character's backstory that if they don't get to play out their backstory, they feel like the game was boring and not fun. If they're that invested, then they wouldn't ignore the signs that you put out for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you can't have both in that scenario. Either you care enough that you're gonna bite when the carrot is presented, or you don't actually care that much and you're not gonna bite, and so you just got a different set of events that happened, and you had a different kind of fun.
Well, I mean, that can happen, and I'm not saying that any of my players are like this, but the theoretical that can happen where it's like I want my story handed to me. I don't want to work for it, and I will get mad if it's not handed to me. Again, that's not how my players are necessarily.
But if you put a carrot in front of them, is that not handing it to them? That's pretty much not enough. It to them, isn't it?
Like,
I mean, yeah, but they're not fucking 5 years old. How about you gonna baby them?
No, I know. And again, like I said, that's not necessarily my players, but that is a thing that I have seen on the interwebs.
If you have a player who's like, I'm so invested in my long lost brother, like I want to make sure we do that at some point in the game, and then the GM dangles the obvious carrot related to long lost brother, and then it is ignored, and then the player gets mad at the GM for not making it more obvious, like the brother kicks him in the balls or something, then I don't know what to tell you, dog. Like, you're just being fucking stupid. Like, like I'm not playing with you anymore. You're just being annoying. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like that's so overly petulant that like I don't even think we should. I don't even think there's any point in us entertaining that premise.
Fair enough.
You know, like fuck off. That would be my response to that. I'd be like, fuck off. Like, you're just being annoying.
Yeah.
Because you have to, like, part of the point of tabletop games is that player characters and players and their characters have limitless agency or near limitless agency, because, you know, the GM is a human being who could respond to pretty much anything they do. So if you're just ignoring that agency and expecting it to be handed to you like a video game, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you. I do.
It's some goofy ass shit. Shut up and go play Baldur's Gate. Like, that's where I'm at with that one.
Sorry, I have to. We got a little. I didn't say off topic, but we shifted, so I have to find where we are in the notes. I talked about that. Yeah, sorry. I think it's sort of, you know, to your point, yes, a bit of this is sort of inevitable, and I can't really control my player's agency, and maybe it is a bit futile that I am trying, or not. Well, I wouldn't even say I'm trying to control it. I'm trying to guide it, because you're right. If ultimately they don't want to do it, there's nothing I can do to force them to do it. But I don't know. I'm almost afraid that if my players don't push, that I don't know necessarily, not where to go. That's not the right word. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm so focused on finishing the linear story, or not. I'm really struggling with this.
I would help you fish it out here, but I'm not sure where you're trying to go.
I almost wish the players would take the strain off my shoulders a bit, because I'm trying to give them as much agency as possible, right? I don't want to do the like super railroady, you don't really have a choice in anything, and the missions are the missions, and that's all there is to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I am trying to run the game the way that I am, as far as I'm aware, supposed to be running it, and to sort of get the best of both. I kind of need a bone to be thrown my way, and well, I know that this is sort of shifting from the original premise of you know the slump.
It sounds like It sounds like you're trying to not run the game the way it's supposed to be run. It sounds like you're trying to run the game in such a fashion that it almost kind of doesn't want to be run.
But it does, though, right? Like, the game has accounted for this. Like, that's kind of what I was saying.
Well, accounted for and intending that you run it that way are not necessarily the same thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess, but yes, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I am
like
sort of trying to have my cake and eat it too, I admit. But like, is that so wrong?
It almost sounds like you want to play Blades at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like
a little bit, but the game is sort of like, I would say it's built on Blades, but there's a lot of Blades in it.
There's Blades in it, but
Blades
I think
also requires very self-motivated players. Which again,
Blades doesn't have to. You can do Blades without self-motivated characters, but Blades is a lot better set up for that self-motivation because Blades very specifically puts information in front of the players that they can specifically point at and go, "I want that. We're getting that." You know what I mean? Which is something that Lancer's not doing, right? Like for example, you're playing Blades. And you're like, all right, what do we want to do? You know, we're trying to get rich here, guys. What do we need to do? What's the plan? And then the players look at their turf map on their gang sheet and go, all right, let's get that turf next. And then we'll hit that turf there because we can get the +1 coin and then we can get the stash or the gear or whatever. You know, I forget what buffs are on there. But like we get this buff and then this buff. And then we could do this mission to try and hit these guys, right? That information is all in front of the players to look at and go, all right, we can strategize. Lancer doesn't have anything like that. You know, it's the same argument for putting magic items in the player's handbook instead of in the DMG because it lets the players open up the player's handbook and go, I want that flaming sword. GM, where do I get flaming sword? Give me flaming sword. And then the GM could go, allow me to conjure up mission where we acquire flaming sword. You know what I mean? And again, and as far as I'm aware, Lancer is lacking that element.
It's not because one of the downtime activities is the like power at a cost, and that's literally I want this thing. You know, how to like let's go out, and one of the things is you can make a mission around it. The players haven't asked for anything that important, but a downtime
activity isn't meant to be like a whole arc or a whole mission, right? Isn't it kind of intended to be like a short, quicker thing?
Again, it's one of those things where it says typically no, but they can be made into one if it's relevant enough. It is admittedly a little vague on it, but you know, again, the impetus is there.
Right, but if that's how it phrases it, then if I'm a player and I look at that, that doesn't necessarily tell me, oh, if I go for this thing, it's going to turn into a whole ass event, right? That doesn't firmly tell me that. It says true. Maybe it might, but it leaves it a little ambiguous. It's like, if the players do not have an obvious goal that they can point directly at, it's harder for them to have that self-motivated element. So you really gotta, you have to put it in front of them in a different way.
I don't necessarily know how.
Well, that's why I'm saying that was my point about dangling the carrots in front of them for their backstory stuff.
Right, but what I'm saying is like I have done that a couple times.
Well, do it again now that they're in a situation where they can operate more freely.
True enough.
Right, because you were doing it before, but they were under a little bit more of a constraint of some nature. But now they can operate more freely. So if you say to them, like, all right, you have no boss telling you what to do, and also here's a bunch of carrots, go buck wild. Right? Like, is there any reason you can't say, all right, at the start of the session, players, your friend NPC, the mechanic, tells you about a weird distress beacon she picked up on from this planet. You, player A, you're pretty sure that's the planet that your brother disappeared on. right? Is there any reason you can't do that?
Other than I just hadn't thought about it in that way. No, I mean, I'm sure I could.
Yeah. So like, that's probably the angle I would go on. And if they ignore every carrot and every little hook and it just doesn't happen, then just fuck it, orcs attack, move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right, like you got the ripcord. You always have the ripcord of orcs attack. If you get to that point, move the story forward and just, all right, let's do the next thing. Like, they want me to feed them the next step. Here's the next step. You know, and maybe if your intention, if we think about it in like a video game structure, where it's like, all right, you know, the first act of the game is a little more linear, and then the second act of the game is like Disc 2 of Final Fantasy VII, where you get the airship and you could travel all around the world. And then once you hit a certain point after the all around the world part, the game collapses back into a more linear thing once shit starts hitting the fan. If the players kind of ignore the travel around the world bit and don't care that much about that part, then skip over it and collapse back down into the linear bit. Like, which might mean you're skipping an act, like an act that you have sort of in your head, which also might mean the game is going to end a little sooner than you expected, but is that really the end of the world?
No, but God, that'd be a headache. Well, I mean, there's 2 acts left. This one and then the last one.
Well, seeing as how long it took you to do 1 act, that's saying a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, each act is about 12 to 15 weeks. About.
Seeing as how you just finished Act 1, it took you this long to finish Act 1. Okay, Act 2. It's still been a while, which means 2 more acts. You're assuming a shitload more game.
Yeah, I am. Ideally, I want to be done.
Sounds like you're expecting 2 more years of this game.
No, absolutely. Well, Lancer's only been a year. I'm hoping for like 9 more months of this game at maximum. But that's like assuming the players are moving at a pretty self-motivated rate, doing the things they want to do, and we're not meandering trying to figure out what to do next. Like,
so if we cut down from 9 months to 4 or 5 months, is that a big deal?
I
don't think it is.
I don't know. Like, I didn't have a good answer to this question when I ran Hellscapes, and I don't think I have one now. Like,
I think less is more most of the time.
Yeah, but I wasn't really satisfied with the less is more approach I had last time.
You didn't have a less is more approach last time. You ran a 4-year game.
Yeah, but at the end, I was like, we're just wrapping things up because I was.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing. That's different. That's this. You wrapped things up because you were like, this game has been going on for too fucking long. I want to be done with it. Which is not the same thing as, all right, maybe I'll just tighten things down and shorten this up a bit. Not the same thing. Right. What you did was the producers greenlit you for 5 seasons, and then you got to season 3 and they were like, actually, we can only do 4 seasons. And you're like, fuck. All right, let me just, all right, we'll just ignore that plot point, wrap this shit up. This character's dead now. Fuck them. As opposed to the producers are like, you're cleared for 4 seasons. You go, I think I could do 3 and probably have it be pretty good. And they're like, all right. You know what I mean? Those are not the same situation. Using my weird TV analogy. Right? Like, you weren't as quote unquote as satisfied with Hellscapes because Hellscapes overstayed its welcome. We're not quite there yet with Lancer. So it will probably be better off, especially if your players just look, let's just be honest. If your players just don't give a fuck about doing any kind of like, we're doing our own missions shit, then just don't do it. If they just don't care, just don't do it. You know, like, at a certain point, you have to just be like, all right, fuck it, never mind. That idea didn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, again, if would you rather try and drag the players along, like kicking and screaming, to do something that they don't really want to do that much, or would you rather just shorten the game down and get to the cooler bits?
Well,
Right?
my worry is not that they don't want to do it that much. My worry is that for one reason or another, they're not taking advantage of the time they have. So when we are at the end, everyone's going, but what about my thing? Which, like,
That's
did happen a little bit in the last campaign.
I don't know how that happened with the last game, but fair enough. I doesn't really sound like that's what's occurring here. It sounds like what's occurring here is they don't care that much because you're giving them the opportunity and they're ignoring it. So
I feel like I'm getting mixed messages.
I mean, from the outside, it certainly sounds like they're being given an opportunity. They're ignoring it, and so you go, all right, never mind.
Well, so like
Like,
you know, this is not a call out, but like Brett's character, I have presented some backstory stuff, and Brett or his character, for one reason or another, is like, no, I can't do that right now. But you know, I appreciate the desire to like take it at his own pace, but at some point that pace is gonna have to be fucking breakneck, and it's not gonna feel very good, and it's gonna, you know, on some level frustrate me a little bit.
sounds like a prison of his own making.
A little bit, but like I'm trying to help him with that.
I mean, I don't see any. But if it's a prison of his own making, then what's the big deal? Just be like, okay, and let it
Because
happen.
I'm still the GM and I still want like. Because I am aware of the general proddings of the story better than he is. So he might not know when the point of no return is, but I kind of do. And if I can help, even if he's not,
you could just tell them that.
well, that's what I was gonna say. If that's what it comes to, that's what I'll do. But it is a situation where I'm like,
You could literally just say right now, all right, this current arc, this current chapter, whatever you want to call it, is the intention is that you guys kind of do your own thing for a little bit. I'm leaving things a little bit open-ended so you have the room to do your own thing. Once we get out of this arc, we have hit the point of no return. So do what you want now, because shit's going to get crazy after this. And just say that to them. And then they'll be like, okay, well, if that's the case, at least a couple of them will probably be like, all right, then let's go. I have a thing I want to do.
yeah. I've pretty much said everything other than the point of no return. But yeah.
I think you should just say that. I think you should just do the video game thing and flash the warning sign, point of no return here.
Maybe.
I don't see any reason not to.
I don't know. I don't know that there is a reason not to. It just doesn't feel good. Like we've talked about it several times in the podcast where it's like sometimes you just got to like pull back the curtain.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it for the most part. But there are some things where it's like I almost wish that I didn't have to. But I know that that's just kind of how it is sometimes.
I'm not even. I'm taking it a step further. I'm not even saying pull back the curtain. I'm saying light that curtain bitch on fire. We don't need it. I just don't use it anymore. I don't care. I don't need it. Like that. This kind of goes back to that whole thing about the idea of the GM who wants to do everything diegetically, right? Like, why? You know, like,
Yeah.
why? There's no reason to. It's not like your game. There's no RPG purity test. Your game is not more pure or more true if you do everything in universe and never ever explain to the players what you're thinking or what's in your notes. Like, Your game is not somehow more holy and better if you do it that way.
You know, you're right, but there's like something to be said about like in my mind space, it looked like this, and like, yeah, I know that it's never going to match up with reality, but like, there's no reason to not at least try.
Right, but if you want it to match closer with your mind space, remove the curtain to get the result you want.
The curtain contains the mind space that it's a little
Yeah. Yeah, show them what's going on in there.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I just don't think there's any. I don't think there's any benefit to like playing everything close to your chest, especially if the players are not picking up what you're putting down. You know, like, what's the point of playing it close to the chest if it's just unsatisfying?
Admittedly, I don't know.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I would go. That I would say, like, you know, after this, there's going to be a no return point where, like, shit's going to pop off. So,
well, no,
I'm giving you the room to do this thing now. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to, but I'm informing you. I
think I do know. I think a part of me, it feels specifically like if I'm good enough, then they'll get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's just not true.
I know, but it's hard.
That's just not true.
I know that, but this is the anxiety, just tell yourself not to be anxious forehead kind of thing. Like it isn't how it works in my brain, unfortunately. There's not a whole lot I can do about how it feels.
I mean, I guess, but this idea that if I'm magically a good enough GM, my players will be able to read my mind is just not. It's just not a thing.
I don't necessarily want to read my mind. I just, you know, a part of me is like, I know I can't expect them to pick up what I'm putting down all the time.
No, most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
Most of the time.
But then I just kind of go back to, well, if I was good enough at delivering the message, maybe they could.
Right, but that's a fallacy.
It is.
It totally is. Like I think you gotta think about the. You have to think about the medium with which you're operating in, right? If you were writing a book and you're writing like a detective story and you say to yourself, all right, if I am a good enough writer, I can plant enough seeds that the reader can solve the mystery if they're paying enough attention, right? That is true. But being a good but what you can't do is be such a good writer that every scene that you as the author are picturing in your head, the reader will perfectly translate into their mind. That simply cannot happen. No matter how good of it. The greatest writer on the planet, no matter what they put on paper is going to be translated through the reader's mind and is going to look slightly different. No matter what. Right? You're operating in a medium where there's not no visual element, but there is distinctly less visual element, right? More or less. And you're operating in a medium where essentially everyone is agreeing to have a group hallucination, and we're all using words to convey the hallucination to each other so that we're all on the same page as much as is humanly possible. But because we are not robots or aliens who can mind meld, the collective hallucination is going to shift slightly different for everyone, no matter what. So there's no degree of throwing out hints that is going to flawlessly make it so that, yes, the players get it. Everything is working now. It's just not how a human brain works. Like, you have to think about what are the strengths of the medium that you're operating in, right? If you were dealing with a video game, your primary strengths are visual and gameplay mechanic, to convey the point. If you are writing a book, your primary strength is like writing and literary prose and all that shit. If you're doing a movie, you know, a lot of your strengths will be via dialogue and visual choices and how that blends with, you know, cinematography. In the tabletop space, effectively, the greatest strength you have is that everyone is agreeing to collectively hallucinate and tell a cool story together. So whatever information you gotta convey to the other people so the cool story gets told, that is the primary strength. So ergo, and I'm now losing the plot a little bit as I'm going here. I'm losing my own plot. Ergo, by extension, there's no universe where you're going to be quote unquote good enough. Instead, you should lean into the strengths of the medium in question, which in this case is basically just good communication, is what I'm getting at. Right? And the good communication is going to involve basically just directly saying to the players X, Y, and Z is happening.
Yes. At some
if we were to go back into the sex analogy.
Oh, please don't. Okay. Yes, I understand what you're saying. At some point, you do have to make concessions to achieve the shared goal. I get it.
It's not concessions though. See, you're calling it concessions. I'm not calling it concessions. I'm just saying it's just what you do. It's just part of the thing. It's just part of the hobby.
Right, but the compromise is understanding the translation from medium of storytelling to medium of group improvisational storytelling. There has to be a concession made to achieve the end goal of satisfying story.
Right, I'm rejecting the premise that it's concession of any kind. I'm saying it's part of the base formula. It's just like it just is part of it.
Right. I'm not disagreeing that it's part of the base formula.
Because concession would making a concession would imply that like I am making the product inferior in order to get the point across, and I'm saying no, you're not making the product inferior. You are doing what the product intends.
That's all right. Yes, but that's not what I mean when I say concession. Concession is just understanding that there are limitations to the medium. And you have to move forward understanding that there are limitations to the medium in comparison
to
one that you
limitation
have
and concession, I would say, are different, though.
That's what I meant. I don't know.
Okay, fine. I mean, once again, as we just established, I can't read your mind. So, but yeah. It's basically, being direct with what your point, like, it's the same idea as when you start a campaign and you give the players the pitch doc, which everyone should do, by the way. Not that the pitch doc has to be written, but there needs to be a pitch doc of some kind. You know, like I write mine out, but you don't necessarily have to write them. But the point is, when you give that initial pitch, you say to the players, this is the kind of campaign I want to do. Right? Like, we're all going to play D&D, but I want to do an open world hex crawl game. This is the kind of campaign I'm running. So, when you're thinking about character idea, premise, what might be interesting, keep that in mind so that you can make a character that makes sense for that. In other words, you know, don't make a wizard who wants to be locked in his room 24/7. That's not a good hex crawl character.
Right.
Might be a good, I don't know, Vampire the Masquerade character or something, maybe. I don't know. It's the same idea. You're shifting the players into a slightly different, like, campaign premise. So you tell them up front, you basically kind of need to reestablish a new pitch doc, because what you're doing is, players, we've been playing in style A for a year. We're now going to play in style B for a little while. But if you don't tell them that we're style switching, then they're probably not going to assume that. Right? Like, if we've been playing the campaign for a year and up until this point, it's always been the game. It's always been the GM has an NPC who gives us a mission and we tackle the mission. And that's been the game. Now that we're not doing that, or your idea on the GM side is we're not doing that anymore, or at least for a little while, we're not doing that. But if they don't know that, then they're sitting there waiting to get that mission that's not going to come, and they're like, what's going on? You know, it's like when a video game like drastically shifts mechanics on you halfway through and you're like, oh, this is weird. Now I don't know what to do. Wait, hold on. What's going on? And you have to like reassess, like, okay, we're doing a different thing now. This is not a great example, but it's kind of like when you play Abby in The Last of Us 2. Sort of. Right? Like, oh, we're like restarting now. Okay, I was not expecting that. Okay, now I have to familiarize myself with what the fuck's going on. Mm-hmm. So, and changing the premise of a campaign like halfway through is not not a bad idea. Actually, it can be pretty fun sometimes, but you gotta make that clear. You know, it's like a lot of open world games will have this thing where as you get towards the final act of the game, it stops being an open world game and it becomes really linear. Like it focuses way down. Final Fantasy 15 did this, where you hit a point of no return and you get booted from the open world and you can't go back to the open world at all. And it becomes like a totally linear game for the last couple of hours or whatever it is. And that's fine. And it works for in 15 because it, from a story standpoint, it actually is cool and interesting when that happens, right? But the game tells you before that point, hey, once you start this mission, you're going to get booted from the open world and things are going to change. Just so you know. You know what I mean? So you've effectively, that's pretty much what you've done. You've gone the opposite way. You've taken your players from linear mode to open world mode, but you didn't tell them. Or you kind of told them. You're like, I told them.
I pretty explicitly told them, like, this is what the next arc is going to be. This is what I expect of you. Like, I did pretty explicitly tell them.
But did you mention the other part of, also there's a point of no return thing eventually?
No, because I didn't, like, I am not 100% sure when that point of no return is. Like, right, I have vague notions of, like, at some point, yeah, it's going to be too late. If they're on the second to last mission of Act 4, yeah, it's going to be too late. But I don't know what Act 4 100% looks like yet.
You don't need to, I don't think you need to know. I think you just need to tell them that, like, eventually I'm going to push things into that point of no return. So now, while we aren't at that point, make the best of it. And it doesn't need to be specific because, you know, you have lots of room to like play around with it, what that point is. And you might even, if the players get really invested in a particular thing they're doing, you might stretch that point of no return further away or, you know, shift how it starts or whatever. But just being clear that, like, that's on the table.
I will certainly make that more clear. But at some point, it's just not gonna.
And then also, if none of that works at a certain point, maybe just ask, all right, players, do you even want to do this particular bit? You know what I mean? Like, do you actually care about doing any kind of like self-motivated personal missions, or do you not give a shit about that? Like, just ask, you know?
No, because I know that they do care. I know at least some of them care. Like I said, Siffy cares 100%. I know she does.
Okay, so start with the one who does care.
I think that's ultimately, that might be something I have to do kind of on a like player by player basis and just ask, like, what are you expecting out of this section? And like, do you think that you have a backstory thing that you
give a shit about?
Yeah, that you give enough of a shit about to like chase down.
Right, that's my point. Yeah, because ultimately, if they don't care, then it's going to be pulling teeth no matter what you do.
True.
And that pulling teeth always sucks balls. So.
So.
That's how I look at it. Like, just clear communication on what your intention is.
Stuff to think about for tomorrow.
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, I was going to say you have time. You don't have that much time, but you have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, ultimately, there isn't really a failure state here. Or there is, but it's pretty unlikely to happen. So you don't need to stress it too much.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, like, I have a couple weeks because we're going to do this tournament thing, which God, I did not get as much done on that as I wanted to this week.
Oh, wait, you're already in the tournament thing?
No.
Okay,
I introduced it like last week as this is what we're looking at. This is what the next mission's going to be because we need money to fix the ship. And I, at the very least, by tomorrow, have to prep the sit rep. Not the sit rep, the briefing.
That seems like something that would complicate what you're trying to have them do. Because you're telling them, hey, we're in the open world section of the game. By the way, mandatory tournament coming up. That's kind of, those two things are contradicting each other, are they not?
Like, yes, a little bit. But again, I'm throwing it at them as a palate cleanser to sort of get them back in the mood to play after a break and after all that shit that happened. To give them a direction while introducing some stuff for Cass's character specifically. And then pretty much after that, once they get their ship back, then I will kind of like take the leash off.
I mean, okay, that's slightly confusing to me, I'll be honest, but all right. See how it goes.
Well, so let's put it this way. If they had taken it at 100% what I had said originally, and then we're like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this with my character, I probably would have pushed it back. So like after they got some of that stuff out of the way, I would have like, the ship isn't as bad as maybe we thought it was. We can get it, it's not going to be running at full capacity, but we can move around. But no one made any like active statements to be about chasing anything down.
Nobody made any moves.
Yeah. So because I don't want to sit around for them to have something ready, right? Because we still have to play the game every Thursday. I am giving them something to do while they figure that out. And also, do a tournament arc, because those are always fun and a good way of getting people. They were like, what do we do now? And I was like, well, there's a tournament arc we can do. And they were like, yeah, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. So.
I mean, okay. It's kind of, I don't know. It's really sounding like the backstories don't fucking matter.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm being told otherwise, but
Okay. All right. Sounds like you're being told one thing, but they're not reacting like that. But I mean, I'm not at the table, so I'm speculating from a distance, but
I bet. But there's not a whole lot you can do, right? That's kind of the nature of this podcast, is that we both have to kind of do this from a slight distance. Like I am at your table, but I'm not you.
Right, yeah. I'm yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would have to talk to your players directly to really get an answer, but I don't know. A lot of the things you've been saying to me are just sounding like, GM, we like it if you hand us missions more. You could also just comb through their backstory stuff and make missions out of that shit. Admittedly, you probably should have done that sooner, but
I mean, that goes into the thing I was saying before, right? Is like figuring that shit out is a lot, especially fitting it into the mission format that I kind of just decided I didn't 100% want to do.
Well, that's kind of why I said do it sooner, because it probably would be easier sooner on in the narrative, but now you are where you are, so
Yeah, I mean, like there was a little bit of that, like Brett's character, the weird AI piloted mechs that they fought 3 times now are directly connected to Brett's backstory, and I've like given him some seeds and like resources to figure that out, but he hasn't bitten on that hook yet. So will he? Probably, but he hadn't done it at the point where I'd given it to him.
I mean, you can also another classic trick is taking multiple characters' backstories and smashing them all together into a mission.
Yeah.
Right, like conveniently, this mission involves your long lost brother, your friend that owes you money, and your dad. Weird. You know, like that can help sometimes too.
True.
I mean, don't make it too contrived, but you know, a little contrivance. Little contrivance ain't kill nobody.
Fair enough. That's pretty much all I got.
Uh-huh.
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 No, that is pretty much the end of my notes. But yeah.
Okay.
I will try these things out in the next couple weeks once I figure everything out, and I will.
Worst comes to worst, drop another giant nuke monster death robot on them.
I've got
Really
one locked and loaded.
Just be like, hey, you know that funny thing that happened with the death machine? What about a second one?
I had, like I said, there's no joke. I have a second one.
I would just whip it out, maybe.
It's gonna come up. Like they don't really have a choice.
Whip out the robot. Whip out the robot, not the, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just clarifying.
Okay. All right. That's been us. Follow us on the social media platforms of choice. They all suck. But we'd appreciate it. Ideally, I'd like to get to 300 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year. So that would be.
Did you just pick a number out of your ass?
No, I mean, we're at 100 and. Well, we're at 120, so I guess 200.
It felt like a number out of your ass.
No, I kind of like the out of my ass was the math, but not necessarily the number.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
The risk I took was calculated, but man, I'm bad at math.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I'd like to get started by the end of the year. So, thumbs up. And
if you don't, he's moving to a remote island.
That'd be so nice. Oh my god.
Disappearing from the entire world.
That's fine. I'll go off grid. That's all right.
Live with the fucking. Was it the tribe in Guyana that's never had human contact or outside contact? Or
yeah, something like that. Yeah. No, look, I'm ready to go full James Cameron's Avatar. Let me just be one with the fucking planet.
With the Pandora sadness.
Yeah.
Okay, I have nothing else to add. So.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Peace, motherfucker.